Ye poor old man, one grief sincere, his locks are raving barely. What means the sight, the starting tear, what does he weeps sincerely? As cold misfortunes, weathering hand, hunger I grieve sadly. Or he you lost in foreign land, your ink and heritage sharing. Poor Scotiaborn, when he took leave, she saw his tears come sailing. She hung her head and sailed at grief, she landed on his journey. He wept not for his own sad fate, though he was pressed unfairly. He saw his country's bitter state, was that not wrong himself? Adieu, my native hills, adieu, he said in silent sorrow. The bonny sun I wed you, rise o'er your tops tomorrow. A silent room, the hills are hung, the heads are dowly waving. The birds are lamentations sang as he farewell was written. My country bleeds, my country faints, but name will leave her. Those that should soften her complaints most cruelly deceive her. Our sons we are, our ways we let, and they try to save her. Her day is gone, her sun has set, and freedom's fled forever.
Thank you very much, Daniel. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, a world first. As I said, I feel so honoured to be standing here tonight and be given this opportunity to present newly researched information. It's such a lovely venue. Now the picture that you see on the wall here is a biography, the first biography that was written about George Beattie. It was first published in 1863. Interestingly, it was 40 years after George had died, which is probably classed that as a bit of an anomaly. Why wait that long to publish a biography on someone? Now, when you write a biography, one would think that the person writing about the other person would research and get 100% of the information correct. Because it would be doing injustice to the person if you weren't to get the information properly sourced, ladies and gentlemen. Now this is the problem we have with this publication. Myself and Barry and Helen have pored over this book on numerous occasions. We've read every single word countless times. And this book now, it posed more questions than it did answers, we felt. And we found it a very interesting historical document in that sense. And that's why we carried out the follow-on research to it. Now, I would like to bring to your attention anomalies. But it's not an extensive list because it'd be here all night. because each particular subject matter goes down, like, if you will, a different rabbit hole. But most of them, all the information is contained in the publication that's just been published, obviously. So there's no point in me standing out reading out the whole book tonight. Now, one of the first interesting anomalies, it's not necessarily regarding the 1863 biography. It's the simple fact, ladies and gentlemen, that there is no mention of George's immediate family on the headstone down at St Silas. Now, there could be reasons for that, but in the first instance, most headstones mention the deceased's family. Now, the author of this biography, for the most part, remains anonymous. And what I mean by that is, the author of this book terms himself A.S. Mount Cyrus. But in the book, there's no foreword to the author. There's no clue anywhere to who this A.S. Mount Cyrus is. So I think it took us a good 6 months to try and get clues who this person was. It could have been a man or a woman at this point. We just didn't know. And we found that was an anomaly as well. It turns out the author of this biography is an Andrew Smith. But anyway, that's fine, all the information's in the book, so I won't go down that road tonight. Now, George had an extensive family. There were seven of them, 7 children as such. Again, all that's been researched and all that's been covered in the previous presentations. But one of his brothers, James, who is a very important figure in this story, is not even mentioned in the biography. Not mentioned. And he plays a pivotal role in just about everything. But again, the biographer fails to mention this guy actually exists. What's going on here? Strange. Now, regarding George, we have to consider and we have to understand that he was a working lawyer. He was a very important man in the town. Again, don't take my word for that. I've just read out his obituary. Now, when George writes out a will, but he dies 8 days before the end of the legal validation period of 60 days. Essentially, he writes out his will and he has to survive 60 days in order for his will to become good. But he decides to take his life 8 days before the end, which we've found odd as well. Now, we start getting into some really interesting facts and figures here. The author, Andrew Smith, that we know, informs us that George's fiancée, who was a Miss William Gibson, who was the daughter of a local squire, Robert Gibson, inherited money. Now, this is where we're coming to the crux of this research now. Because if you want to really find the truth in anything in life, ladies and gentlemen, you follow the money. Go down the road of the money and you'll find the route. So the last presentations were more or less an academic pursuit of George's family, and we left it at that. But we didn't really. We knew we were going to go further, so we decided to follow the money trail. So the money trail starts at an uncle of his fiancée she'd inherited a vast sum of money. Now, this uncle, right, again, this is what the biographer in 1863 informs us. The uncle was, quote-unquote, the governor of Granada. Fine. He reinforces this point 3 times in the book. So you have no reason to suspect that he's telling you a porky, right? It's a simple fact. So, this is one of the very few occasions that we personally went to the internet to research. Every other piece of research that's been done regarding this project has been done at root source material level, i.e. archival material, out in Edinburgh. The amount of time I spent out in the archives, woof, you know, really honestly, it was getting mind-blowing. And of course all the work that Barry done as well. But that to one side. So we had to find out who William Mitchell was. This was the uncle, William Mitchell. Find out who he is. The governor of Granada. Quick internet search. Goes into a very good website, and from the time period that we're looking at, circa 1797 to 1823, What did we find? No such person called William Mitchell, who is the governor of Granada. Who was William Mitchell in that case then? Wait a minute, this is a bit bizarre, because the biographer tells us that he was the governor. I have to look a wee bit further afield here, ladies and gentlemen, to find out who this guy was. Inference here again, just to dwell on this particular thing, because it is important. It's important to us and it's important to the research. If he's the governor of Granada, the inference being is that he's working on behest of the British Crown. At the time, it was King George III. So he was a civil servant, in other words. And it makes you think, my word, a civil servant, that amount of money. In them days, I don't know, maybe these days it's different, I don't know. Now, also what the biographer informs us, that he had a black housekeeper by the name of Sarah Bronker. Black housekeeper, inference being again, it's a slave of some description. Now, I would like to bring to your attention that there is actually George's baptismal certificate, because, again, the biographer doesn't inform us of George's actual birth date, but after a lot of research and a bit of flick, I think, as well, Barry, to be honest with you, we actually uncovered George's birth date, and it was the 18th of September, 1786. Now, the inheritance, and this is where the story becomes sad in a sense, because it's the main reason why George allegedly takes his own life. The inheritance that's allegedly coming from the colonies, from this governor of Granada, is £5,000 to his sister Isabel, £5,000 to his brother James, and £3,500 to George's fiancée, Miss William Gibson. That's the kind of money we're looking at here. But that's what the biographer informs us from the governor of Granada. Fine. So we did a lot of research.
Can I just interject 2 seconds? We're talking about the equivalent of £12.5 million now.
Exactly, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for that. That's the sum of money we're looking at here. Now, after extensive research through Kew in London at the National Archives down in London, we established that this William Mitchell, aka the governor of Granada, was actually a slave owner. And he was an agent at the Mountain Edward Estate in Granada, in the West Indies. Now, this came as a great surprise to us. So, of course, doing research, you have to look everywhere. So we looked at the will of William Mitchell Esquire, we got a copy of that, we corroborated it with all the research that we'd done previously to make sure it was the right person, and everything ties up perfectly. Now, again, getting back to the initial biography, it was more or less right what the biographer said initially, that the money given over to certain individuals was correct. But I'd like to draw your attention to this black housekeeper again, because again this is very interesting. The biographer omits this detail. The black housekeeper by the name of Sarah Bronker. Black housekeeper in William Mitchell's will. He does give out the money, as I said, but he also owes the black housekeeper over £3,000. Excuse me? What is going on here? This is getting a bit bizarre now. So this black housekeeper is more than just a black housekeeper. There's more to the relationship here. And again, it's highly interesting stuff. Now, there's a major problem. I won't go into the will. Again, I'll be here all night in this will. I've read that will. It's interesting. It's old hand. I mean, I could hardly read and write when I left school. But I had to learn how to read this. And at the beginning, I could only read 10%. And at the end, well, up to this point in the research, I can read probably about 70% or 80%. I can extrapolate a lot of information out of these wills, which you have to do, and it's hard work. If anybody's done it, you know what it's like. Now, William Mitchell Esquire, it turns out, he's not the governor of Granada. He's actually a slave owner, he's an agent, and it's a sugar plantation owning over 100 slaves. We've got the colonial records to prove this, ladies and gentlemen. I wouldn't stand here and say this if we never. All the research has been backed up. And he leaves over £14 million in present times in his will that Barry had just mentioned there. This is a picture of the Mount Nesbitt estate. I've actually got all these details over photographs in Granada. St John in Granada, there. Now, here we go. Before I go on to this particular slide, I would just like to leave this with you. Problem with this inheritance, this £14 million, can't find it. Where is it? Is it behind the couch? Is it under the floorboards? I don't know, where is it? Where did they put it? I'm being flippant here, but I seriously can't find any trace of this money. Now, the people who would have inherited the money, we would presume it would have shown through in their wills. Can't find it in their wills either. I've looked at the trust deeds out in Edinburgh. Can't find the money. Now, we've came to an educated guess here, and it's that this money never existed for reasons that are the sugar plantation in the time on this island, that we've got good reliable research evidence to prove this. The sugar plantation at the time was in free fall, and there was a good possibility that this estate in particular went into liquidation. It went bust. So William Mitchell had made an inventory of his assets, but he never took into account his liabilities. Now, the will is only names on a piece of paper. Unfortunately, for the people involved here, this money never materialised. Money normally, this kind of money normally materialises. This kind of money normally materialises in property. And a good example of that is the big houses down in Great Western Road there, you'll see in Glasgow, and you'll see it all manifests itself in property. Huge mansions. And again, we can't find any trace of this. But again, we're open to anybody in the public domain, in the family, that will get any information for us, we would gladly information share. We don't hold the monopoly in wisdom in this at all. Now, where we are now, ladies and gentlemen, it gets a bit controversial, but we feel that we have to address this particular issue. We've worked so hard and worked so long on this particular project, and we feel that we've done Montrose in Scotland not a favour, but we're presenting with information that basically rewrites history to a certain degree. That's quite a grand statement to make, but we're confident we can make that statement because we are sure of our project. Now, in one point, we've got misinformation circulating in the public domain. And what we mean with misinformation, ladies and gentlemen, is the information contained in certain publications totally contradict our research. Now, the information, and what I mean by that, we're amateur researchers, and we hope that certain historical societies in this area would at least come forth and give us a hand and help us, and we could information share. But that's not been the case, I'm quite sad to report. Again, we're all amateur researchers, just endeavouring to bring forward some information to the public domain that you might find of interest. It's not our fault that the 1863 biography was essentially wrong in some parts of it. Now, in certain publications, that slanders George's good name, and it reports George Beattie as being an atheist, a drunk, and a troublemaker? Well, we find this a bit hard to understand, because if I could just read this particular passage here. A virtually throwaway comment in this history may be indicating radical activity in the town of Montrose during the Napoleonic Wars. But the reference to suicide may be a guarded reference to the local poet George Beattie and his cronies behaving once more in a socially unacceptable way, drunkenness on the Sabbath. We totally contradict that, ladies and gentlemen. George Beattie was a working lawyer. He stood for election in this town, and we have the records to prove that. If you're going to stand for election anywhere, public office, I think you have to be on a good platform. You can't have any skeletons in the cupboard, so to speak. So, again, we find this slanderous, and it's being published in certain publications. Now, there's also another passage, and the authors are talking about individuals who, unfortunately, have got no correlation with this story whatsoever. And I find this whole thing quite distressing. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, just to summarise, and once I summarise, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hand you over to Daniel McMillan, and he's going to sing you 2 more songs. On behalf of the George Beattie Project, I would like to extend my sincere thanks for your kind attention this evening. This labour of love over the past 3 years has been an immense pleasure for all concerned. It has been at times difficult, time-consuming, financially draining and tiring. When we first started out on this journey, it was purely an exercise in obtaining as much background information on George Beattie in relation to his family as we could source. But as we continued, we soon realised that there was a bigger story behind the one that was put in the public domain. We sincerely hope that the legacy of one of Montrose's greatest sons will be placed firmly back into the consciousness of this population and Scotland. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to our presentation tonight. I'm going to hand you over to Daniel McMillan.
Hello again. In George Beattie's later life and his career in writing poems, he sort of slid away from the nationalistic kind of sentiment and focused more on things that were happening to him and how he felt about it. Those that read the first book will know about his love, William Gibson. And this song, The Appeal, is basically a plea from George Beattie to Miss Gibson, begging her to reconsider her marriage proposal for his man. Say what is worse than black despair, 'tis that take hope to leave for flight, that plays up fast and moves with care, and wastes away life and dying. No promise to be a welcome guest, going maybe to come. 'Tis but a cuckoo voice at best, the joy of spring tears heaven's song. Then now accept this very hour, like the kind words of peace we spoke, that you upon